Once again, the Christ on the right, Yahweh, Jesus, Brian, Leonard, Golightly, Marshall. And of course, the tool that he uses is measuring his creation, as a builder constantly measures what it is that he's building. The measurements recorded within the creation is the book. The earth, the creation, is the book that only the Christ can read. And he's been doing so for decades now, since the advent of Magellan GPS software. Then, as the internet became available, astronomy programs, etc., are the tools only available through this age now, where he could reveal all things. The apocalypse is the revealing. And the greatest tool assembled in the 1830s is the dictionary and the concordance of the 1611 KJV Bible, compiled by James Strong and his wonderfully inspired, brilliant men. Here is the apostolic letter, penned originally in Italian and translated by Father Giuseppe Cervello into English. Father Cervello uploaded it to the internet. In Christum Credent, believe in Christ. This apostolic letter is in regards to Brian Leonard Golightly Marshall's claim to be the Christ, the Roman Pontiff Emeritus Benedict XVI's response to Marshall's claim, the Third Vatican Ecumenical Council outlined by Marshall, the meeting which occurred with the Roman Pontiff Pope Francis and the Pope Emeritus, the Roman Pontiff Francis' response to Marshall's claim, and a prayer for the Universal Church reflecting Brian Marshall. The last page of the document, a photograph of Pope Benedict XVI and his signature. And it's appropriate that this was accomplished in Germany. Now, President Trump's advisor, Israel, is a man. As man, he is Christ, the third part of the Trinity, and is the Creator, the Holy Ghost who conceived in the Virgin Mary, the soul of the Creator. Hence Jesus said, the Father and I are one. Our letter to Donald Trump was marked read, so we know he received and read it through Facebook message on June the 13th, 2012. The letter recommended he should investigate Christ is back, then once convinced, announce it, and he would be the hero to bring paradise to the earth. 270 days later, Pope Benedict XVI announced he had met Christ. On March the 26th, Pope Benedict XVI uploaded to the internet In Christum Credent, after a meeting with Francis on the 23rd of March 2013. During the meeting, Francis gave Pope Benedict permission to record their meeting. Once Francis realized that Benedict uploaded it to the internet, the Jews ordered him to arrest him and murder his staff. Since then, Mr. Trump has become president. I have said he is the reincarnate of Adolf Hitler. His 100-day plan, calculated from his inauguration on January 20th, 2017, ends on Hitler's date of death, April the 30th, 2017, when President Trump will be 26,888 days old. 26 is the gematria in English for God. 7 plus 15 plus 4 for the letters G-O-D, and 888 in Greek gematria is Jesus. Now, it is irrelevant if Trump did follow our advice or not. The beast, the Jews, who boast they shall forbid Christ, means they must know who Christ is, because their God informs them, appearing to their leaders in spiritual manifestations. Trump is said to know everything. His disgruntled first wife in her divorce case stated he would read Hitler's speeches every night before retiring to bed. Now it has been brought to his attention the former government under Obama and the Secretary of State Hillary Clinton was involved in the forced retirement of Pope Benedict XVI. The letter published at the remnantnewspaper.com. The article, "A Vatican Democratic Party Alliance?" That's the question. Catholics ask Trump administration to investigate. On the right there, "The Straw Man Burneth." One of the books self-published by Brian Leonard Golightly Marshall. The lure being the straw man scam, the birth certificate scam, and the hundreds of millions of dollars that is attached to each birth certificate. That was the lure. The rest of the book, the much more marvellous information explaining the altar to the Lord in the midst of Egypt, and explaining the measurements of the galaxy and what it's all about, and Christ returned is identified by the Great Pyramid of Egypt. This is the letter that was sent to President Trump. It is an open letter and it reads, "Dear President Trump, the campaign slogan, 'Make America Great Again,' resonated with millions of common Americans, and your tenacity in pushing back against many of the most harmful recent trends has been most inspiring. We all look forward to seeing a continued reversal of the collectivist trends of recent decades. Reversing recent collectivist trends will, by necessity, require a reversal of many of the actions taken by the previous administration. Among those actions, we believe that there is one that remains cloaked in secrecy. Specifically, we have reason to believe that a Vatican regime change was engineered by the Obama administration." Now, I will just add here as an aside that Obama knew full well that the Christ is indeed back and where he is. He was notified by, I'm thinking of one person in particular, and he responded to the notification, so he had no excuse. He responded to the notification, so he knew full well that the Christ is indeed back. Continuing with the letter, "We were alarmed to discover that during the third year of the first term of the Obama administration, your previous opponent, Secretary of State Hillary Clinton, and other government officials with whom she associated proposed a Catholic revolution in which the final demise of what was left of the Catholic Church in America would be realized. Approximately a year after this email discussion, which was never intended to be made public, we find that Pope Benedict XVI abdicated under highly unusual circumstances and was replaced by a pope whose apparent mission is to provide a spiritual component to the radical ideological agenda of the international left. The pontificate of Pope Francis has subsequently called into question its own legitimacy on a multitude of occasions. During the 2016 presidential campaign, we were astonished to witness Pope Francis actively campaigning against your proposed policies concerning the securing of our borders, and even going so far as to suggest that you are not a Christian. We appreciated your prompt and pointed response to this disgraceful accusation. We remain puzzled by the behaviour of this ideologically charged Pope, whose mission seems to be one of advancing secular agendas of the left rather than guiding the Catholic Church in her sacred mission. It is simply not the proper role of a pope to be involved in politics to the point that he is considered to be the leader of the international left. While we share your stated goal for America, we believe that the path to greatness is for America to be good again, to paraphrase de Tocqueville. We understand that good character cannot be forced on people, but the opportunity to live our lives as good Catholics has been made increasingly difficult by what appears to be a collusion between a hostile United States government and a Pope who seems to hold as much ill will towards followers of perennial Catholic teachings as he seems to hold toward yourself. With all of this in mind, and wishing the best for our country as well as for Catholics worldwide, we believe it to be the responsibility of loyal and informed United States Catholics to petition you to authorize an investigation into the following questions. To what end was the National Security Agency monitoring the conclave that elected Pope Francis? What other covert operations were carried out by US government operatives concerning the resignation of Pope Benedict or the conclave that elected Pope Francis? Did US government operatives have contact with the Cardinal Daniel's mafia? International monetary transactions with the Vatican were suspended during the last few days prior to the resignation of Pope Benedict. Were any US government agencies involved in this? Why were international monetary transactions resumed on February the 12th, 2013, the day after Benedict XVI announced his resignation? Was this pure coincidence? What actions, if any, were actually taken by John Podesta, Hillary Clinton and others tied to the Obama administration who were involved in the discussion, proposing the fomenting of a Catholic spring? What was the purpose and nature of the secret meeting between Vice President Joseph Biden and Pope Benedict XVI at the Vatican on or about June the 3rd, 2011? What roles were played by George Soros and other international financiers who may be currently residing in United States territory? We believe that the very existence of these unanswered questions provides sufficient evidence to warrant this request for an investigation. Should such an investigation reveal that the US government interfered inappropriately into the affairs of the Catholic Church, we further request the release of the results so that Catholics may request appropriate action from those elements of our hierarchy who remain loyal to the teachings of the Catholic Church. Please understand that we are not requesting an investigation into the Catholic Church. We are simply asking for an investigation into recent activities of the US government of which you are now the chief executive. Thank you again, and be assured of our most sincere prayers. Respectfully. And then the names David L. Sonia, LTC, US Army, retired; Michael J. Matt, who is editor of the Remnant newspaper that published this letter; Christopher A. Ferrara, president of the American Catholic Lawyers Association, Incorporated; Chris Jackson, CatholicsForTrump.com; Elizabeth Yore, Esquire, founder of Your Children. Now, continuing, the Jews who have targeted the Vatican via Freemasonry and Jesuit infiltration indeed forced Pope Benedict to retire. In my conversations with Pope Benedict XVI, I assured him he would return as he was still Pope. However, the move by the world order was to install the Black Pope, the Jesuit Francis. Ironically, as deceitful as it is, the book of Revelation predicts it. Pope Benedict XVI retired precisely 84 years after the Vatican was established as a city-state and kingdom. That was February the 11th, 1929. Now the name Marshall in English gematria is 84, as is Emmanuel, meaning God with us. So in other words, it was all part of God's plan, including the strike on St. Peter's Basilica clock at 5:55 p.m. 555 is the number of times that the word Christ is found within 522 verses of the KJV 1611 Bible. Everything is in the number codes of the 1611 KJV. Now reading Revelation 17:11, the words in red are Yah's notes, if you like. And the beast that was, which is Benedict XVI, he was head of the Vatican, so he was the beast. The beast's head decapitated and replaced by Francis, and is not a pope, that is. Even he, this is Benedict XVI, is the seventh and is the eighth. So even he is the eighth, and Benedict XVI is of the seventh, meaning he will be reinstated. Therefore the headless beast will be destroyed by Christ and goeth into perdition. Now perdition means loss. Francis was selected by fraud, which disqualified him, and in order to be a pope he must have been a sacerdotal priest, and he is not. As it is public record, Benedict announced he had met Christ, and in a meeting between himself and Francis on the 23rd of March 2013 at Castel Gandolfo, this was the private meeting, no press allowed, where everybody speculated what it would be that they were talking about. Well, Benedict was telling him he had met the Christ. So Francis denounced myself as not being Christ, therefore he became the Antichrist. The reality is, Pope Benedict XVI and I spoke via live emails, which we have a complete record of, originating in Castel Gandolfo, the summer palace of the Vatican. He, as Pope, or in their eyes a former Pope, still should have stopped the conclave, as the role of a church official is to announce Christ when he returns. He did announce Christ, yet the cardinals, who were also notified, continued the conclave. They were all notified days before the beginning of the conclave, as it was the Jews who wanted a Jesuit Pope as Pope. We have suggested repeatedly to nation leaders, including President Trump, to go to the Vatican and speak with Pope Benedict XVI and ask him if he announced he had met Christ and wrote In Christum Credent. Of course, they will be stopped by Francis from seeing Benedict alone. That is the essential alone. The one that remains by his side, Archbishop Georg Gainswain, is a traitor, and with his presence beside Benedict, there would be a code of silence. This has cost the lives of Benedict XVI's staff, as they were witnesses. These were Father Giuseppe Civello, Monsignor Giovanni Rossini in Canada. He uploaded the apostolic letter from Toronto, as it had been stopped in Italy, and being a good friend of Giovanni emailed it to him, and he did get it up onto the internet from Toronto. Also killed was Sister Maria Anna della Rosa. She was the personal biographer of the communications with the Pope and the Christ. The following slide is the original YouTube presentation. I left him a comment, but as usual has been ignored, further fulfilling Bible prophecy. He, like all who are told of me, 99% of them find some reason to reject Christ. Now his YouTube channel is Third Eagle Books.
I got a very interesting email this morning from one of my subscribers, Mr. Clive James, and let's get right to it. Mr. Tapley, just heard about WikiLeaks showing Soros/Obama/Clinton forced a Vatican coup that overthrew Pope Benedict and installed the radical left Pope Francis, or false prophet. This seems to make sense from Catholic prophecies for these end times. Well, thank you very much, Clive, and not just Catholic prophecies, but also prophecies right out of the Old Testament, in Daniel and Isaiah, as I will get to in a minute. So let's read a letter written by members of the Remnant newspaper to President Donald Trump, asking him to look into this. And these questions are bombshells, in my opinion. We believe it to be the responsibility of loyal and informed United States Catholics to petition you to authorize an investigation into the following questions. And here's what they ask. To what end was the National Security Agency monitoring the conclave that elected Pope Francis? What other covert operations were carried out by United States government operatives concerning the resignation of Pope Benedict or the conclave that elected Pope Francis? Remember, Almighty God showed his intense displeasure at the resignation of Pope Benedict when he struck the Vatican with lightning at exactly 5:55 in the afternoon. 555 is Mary's rosary number, and that indicates that Catholics must now resort to the rosary if they want to defeat the one world religion which Pope Francis has overtaken the Vatican with, as prophesied in Revelation. The holy city they will trample underfoot for 42 months. And this letter continues, and I'll try to put a link to this below. Now listen to this. This is really amazing. International monetary transactions with the Vatican were suspended during the last few days prior to the resignation of Pope Benedict. I had heard about this. Were any U.S. government agencies involved in this? Why were international monetary transactions resumed on February the 12th, 2013, the day after Benedict XVI announced his resignation? What actions, if any, were actually taken by John Podesta, Hillary Clinton, and others tied to the Obama administration who were involved in the discussion proposing the fomenting of a Catholic spring? And all this came out with the WikiLeaks revelations. What was the purpose and nature of the secret meeting between Vice President Joe Biden and Pope Benedict at the Vatican on or about June the 3rd, 2011? And I will try to put the link to this article below. It's quite lengthy. It's very interesting. And when I say this refers to Bible prophecy, Daniel 10, verse number 3 talks about a pope who is not anointed with oil. He's not a real pope. That would be Pope Francis. If Pope Benedict was forced to resign, that is not legal. Pope Benedict is still our true pope, as I've been saying all along. Now, this petition to Donald Trump is exceedingly interesting because Pope Francis has initiated the one world religion in the Vatican. The holy city is being trampled underfoot by the Gentiles. And as I have noted in the past several weeks, Isaiah 45 says that Donald Trump will destroy not only the one world government, but the one world religion. When I first read that, I couldn't believe it. I said, how is he going to do it? This letter tells me that he will respond to these Catholics and he will reveal the United States government involvement in the overthrow of Pope Benedict. This is very significant, and I wanted to bring this to your attention. And as always, if you would like more information about my ministry, visit my thirdeaglemedia.com.
So the White House has really opened themselves up to being contacted. They want to hear from you. They have made email available to you, email contact, a comments telephone number that you can contact them on, and then this telephone number here is to speak to somebody on the switchboard. So write a letter to President Trump. You can mark it Pope Benedict XVI, a prisoner in the Vatican. The video of what he and Father Giuseppe put together on the night of March the 30th, 2013, and asked us to upload to our channel. We did so, and there is one in the original Italian and then one with English subtitles that Father Giuseppe Civello, who was murdered for the witness that was unfolding within Benedict's office, and Giuseppe was the one responsible for uploading to the internet. He was murdered on April the 13th, 2013. So call the White House. Their telephone number is 202-456, which is the number of Yah's new name, Yahweh Jesus Brian Leonard Golightly Marshall, and it means restoration. And the switch number where you can talk to a human being is 1414, so 456-1414. The address 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue Northwest, Washington, D.C. 20500.